we have this quadratic, and we'd like to find the equation. Unfortunately, we don't have the vertex. The vertex is right there. We don't know what point that is. And so we are not able to use the graphing or vertex form. So we're going to have to use standard form for a parabola, which is ax squared plus bx plus c. And we're just going to plug in these 3 points and see if we can solve for a, b, and c. So we'll start with this point here, the 2, 1 point. So that's 1 equals a times 2 squared plus b times 2 plus c, or 1 equals 4a plus 2b plus c. And then we've got this point 1, 2. So 2 is equal to a times 1 squared plus b times 1 plus c, or 2 is equal to a plus b plus c. And finally, we have this third point, which is not going to be as fun to work with. We've got 13/8 equals a times negative 1/2 squared plus b times negative 1/2 plus c. And we can simplify this. So 13/8 equals, that's going to be 1/4 a minus 1/2 b plus c. Okay, now we've got to solve from these 3 equations. Got this one here. These are all our simplified forms. From those 3 equations, we need to solve for a, b, and c. So we're going to work from the top down, and what we're going to do is we're just going to solve for our c in this equation. So this tells us that c is equal to, and we're just subtracting 4a and 2b, so 1 minus 4a minus 2b. Okay, and then we're going to take that and we're going to plug this in to this c here. Okay, so that's going to be very fun. Now I'm going to come down and do this down here. So I've got 2 equals a plus b plus, and then c, which is 1 minus 4a minus 2b. And I can simplify this. This is 2 equals a plus b plus 1 minus 4a minus 2b. I've got an a there, and I got minus 4a there. So that's minus 3a. And then I've got a plus b and a minus 2b, so that's minus b. And then plus 1. And now I solved for c up here and plugged it in there. Notice I don't have any c's now. I'm going to do the same thing here, but I'm going to solve for b. b is equal to, well, that's going to be, let's work in a couple steps. So we'll add the 3a over to plus 3a equals negative b plus 1. I'm going to subtract the 1 over. So that's 1 plus 3a equals negative b. And then multiply both sides by a negative 1. So negative 1 minus 3a is what b is. And now I know b in terms of a, and I know c in terms of a and b. So this is fun. Now we're going to take this b, and we're going to plug it in right there. So we have, now I'm going to move over here. We've got c equals 1 minus 4a minus 2 times b, which is negative 1 minus 3a. And now I simplify. This is 1 minus 4a. Negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. And then negative 2 times a negative 3a is plus 6a. So I've got 1 plus 2, which is 3. And then minus 4a plus 6a, which is plus 2a. And that's c. So notice now I know what b is in terms of a, and I know what c is in terms of a. And I'm going to plug both of those in to this third equation. So finally, 13/8 equals 1/4 times a minus 1/2 times b, which is -1 minus 3a, plus c, which is 3 plus 2a. All right, now I can simplify. And I'm going to simplify in a way that, that I prefer, which is getting rid of fractions if I can. I've got an eighth, a fourth, and a half. And to get rid of that, I can actually multiply both sides of this equation by 8. Okay, that's the least common denominator of those four denominators that showed up. And that leaves me with a 13 on the left side. And then I have 1/4 a times 8, which is 2a. I've got this minus 1/2 times 8, which is 4, times -1 minus 3a. And then 8 times this 3 plus 2a. All right, now I can multiply stuff out. So I've got -4 times -1, so that's plus 4. And then -4 times -3a is plus 12a. And then plus 8 times 3 is 24. And 8 times 2a is 16a. All right, so now I can combine. I've got my a terms. 2a plus 12a plus 16a. That's 30a. And then I've got plus 4 plus 24, which is 28. That's equal to 13. So now I can subtract 28 from both sides. I get a -15 equals 30a. And divide by 30, I get -1/2 equals a. Well, this is great, because now I know a. And so I can go back and find c. C is equal to 3 plus 2 times a, which is -1/2. Well, that's 3 minus 1, which is 2. So c equals 2. And then over here, I've got b. b is -1 minus 3 times a. So that's -1 plus 3/2. Getting a common denominator, I have -2/2 plus 3/2, which is +1/2. And that's b. So I know a, b, and c. And this was my general form. So I'll plug it in there. My equation is y equals a x squared plus bx plus c.